Hi and welcome back to Real Opinions. I don't know how long it's going to be since the last one due to editing, but it's probably been a while since the last one. We don't really have a film in particular that we're going to break down this episode or go into spoilers for. It's just that it's really, if there's a theme, it's just bad films.
Yeah.
And the majority, well, you can explain what the idea that you had for a podcast episode is.
So I was watching Resident Evil. Oh crap! I can't remember the bloody names. I think it was Retribution is the fifth one. I was watching that a few months ago, and as I was watching it, I was messaging you explaining all the things, all the continuity errors between the films, and it was such a convoluted message that you couldn't figure any of it out. And you said to me, it would be funny if you just did a podcast explaining the films one through to the next.
I thought you had the idea, so I'm quite...
No, it was your idea, but I waited until I just watched the final chapter, which is number 6.
We've put in a lot of research for this one.
So, I've watched all 6 of them now, some of them multiple times. And
why? Multiple times?
Because some of them I've watched before. I mean, not like I watched them multiple times in preparation for this. I mean, some of them I've watched and then rewatched for this purpose.
Right. Okay.
Not like I sat here watching. I mean, I probably would have helped actually if I did rewatch all of them several times. But I'm basically going to explain to Jack the plot of all 6 films, including all the plot holes and continuity errors, right. And he can ask questions if he needs to, but I can't guarantee I'll have the answers. Have you seen any of them?
I've only seen her falling backwards out of a window shooting dual guns.
Firing 2 machine guns. That is most of them, yes.
Not
the first one. There's no windows in the first one. The first one is just her stood with a dress and a machine gun. It's a lot more restrained. Then she starts dual wielding and diving out windows. Basically, second film onwards.
I know that the Umbrella Corporation is involved from the video, but that is also from the video game, at least in title. And I know that she's in all of them. That's it, and that she shoots things.
As far as the relationship between these films and the video games go, it is basically corporation called Umbrella make monsters, and that is about it.
I got that. Yeah,
there is nothing. They take characters show up. But they are literally characters in name only. Like, Leon from the game shows up. But he's only Leon because he's called Leon. He doesn't look like Leon, act like Leon. He doesn't have the same profession or anything as Leon. He just has his name. That is the only thing. So there are some characters, but just purely in name only, just to sort of give fan service, I guess. But no, games are completely unrelated. The games actually... I can't believe I'm saying this, because the games are not exactly, like... it's not like The Last of Us that has like a solid story. The games have bad stories too, but compared to this, Jesus Christ. So, it's going to take a while, so I think I should just get straight into it, to be honest.
I feel like I need to figure out a way to recline in the chair, because I feel like, it's going to be a while.
So the first one is actually the most straightforward. This is just Resident Evil, and it tells the story of Alice, who is the lead, the girl in all the posters. So, we open in this underground facility run by Umbrella. It's a genetic research facility called The Hive. And basically, they're making biological weapons down here. And in the opening, we see everyone doing their day-to-day work, all these office workers down there, when a thief steals the T-virus, which is the virus that causes everything in all these films. A thief steals the virus and runs out and smashes the virus and lets it out in the facility. And then the facility's artificial intelligence, which is called the Red Queen. There's lots of Alice in Wonderland things here. So the Red Queen is the HAL. It's basically HAL 2000, or whatever he's called. It's the artificial intelligence. It goes nuts.
Or like Mother.
Yeah. It sees that everyone's infected, and it starts killing everyone, they get in the elevator and it makes the elevator go up to crush them. It's trying to purge the place so the infection doesn't get out. Kills everyone. And that's the cold open. Then we cut to Alice, who is our hero. She awakens in a mansion with amnesia. She wakes up in the shower, doesn't know where she is or anything.
Of course she wakes up in the shower. Of course.
She wakes up naked in the shower, then she gets dressed. The director married her after this film. So I just want to point that out. So she wakes up naked in the shower, gets dressed, walks around this mansion completely abandoned, when commandos burst through the windows and basically just immediately take her to this secret passageway that leads to the hive, to the underground facility. So it turns out this mansion that she's woken up on is right above the secret facility that Umbrella has. The commandos explain to her that they all work for the Umbrella Corporation and that she also worked for the Umbrella Corporation before. One of the commandos says that before she had her amnesia, he was her wife. She was his wife. She was his wife.
The thing is, with Resident Evil, that could have been real. It's so confusing.
She was his wife,
right?
And they were basically in charge of security down there. So they go through the facility, and they're immediately attacked by the AI, by the Red Queen. It opens this laser grid in probably the most famous.
Oh, I know that. I do know that. Yeah, it's been parodied a lot, hasn't it?
Yes, and it basically kills half the cast in this zombie film. Everyone gets killed by the lasers right at the beginning. And the Red Queen basically explains that it shut down the facility and let out the gas because it won't let the infection out. It also transpires that this gas gave Alice her amnesia. You following me so far?
Yes.
Also, her husband, the guy claiming to be her husband, he has amnesia, but somehow he knows that she was his wife. But he too has amnesia from the gas.
Okay,
with me?
Well, I feel like I know where this is going because she said claimed to be her husband, so I feel like I know where this is going.
Yeah, well, it's clearly already a twist.
Yeah.
It's never a surprise.
Yeah.
So Alice eventually kind of starts to remember things. She remembers the T-virus, and she remembers that there's also an antivirus somewhere in the lab, but that it's missing. Meanwhile, her not-husband remembers that he actually stole the virus, and he was the one who let it out.
Right.
It turns out that this is because Alice and her husband were working with an environmental agency who were protesting against biological weapons. So they intentionally let a biological weapon out in this facility. So then the Red Queen gave them amnesia. Right? This is the most sensical one.
It's like if you're against nuclear weapons, so your idea is just to shoot them all to get rid of them.
They retrieve the antivirus, the commandos and Alice, but they are ambushed by something called a licker, which is basically a creature from the video games that has no purpose to be in this film, but they just shoved it in anyway with no explanation.
Right.
The licker then becomes the focus as it hunts the whole group down, killing them. And in the process, it turns out that her husband is actually not working with the environmental agency and was trying to sell the virus. He was going to betray her, sell this antivirus. He wasn't her husband. That's all a lie.
Oh, no.
And he just wants to sell this virus for money. And that's why he orchestrated all this happening. He's then killed almost immediately by the licker.
Okay, great.
And Alice and the one surviving guy called Matt, who is like the only decent person, and he isn't working for Umbrella, he's just randomly there for the fuck of it, I guess.
Oh, they don't explain why he's there?
Not really. I think it's implied that he's working with the protest organisation.
Oh, right.
And he was liaising with Alice to orchestrate all of this. They escape, get back up to the mansion, but Matt is the guy, has been attacked by a licker and he is infected. Suddenly, Umbrella agents burst into the room and start taking him away as he starts to mutate. And Alice goes outside and realises that the infection has spread all across Raccoon City, which is now abandoned and ruined. She picks up a shotgun, cocks it, film ends. So it's like, okay, now it's out in the city. That's the first film. Okay, fairly straightforward.
See, when you describe that, there are parts of that I actually quite like, as in, in concept. I obviously not, like, I like the idea of something like breaking out in a facility and basically the people having to fight against the facility to survive.
The mix of zombies with 2001.
Basically,
is decent.
Yeah, and I can see why, if someone said that premise alone, with like a good director or a good writer or something like that, I could see how that might be a really fun film. And I know the laser grid thing. So is this the best film of the lot?
Easily. Like, this is a guilty pleasure. It's bad. It's filled with cringy, like, post-Matrix slow-mo and people running up walls and like this. The score's done by Marilyn Manson. It's all like
Yeah.
whilst they're, it's supposed to be a zombie horror movie. And obviously, as you can tell, there's stupid plot points, and the characters are all really awful with really embarrassing dialogue. But it is the most fun and the most straightforward. It is, like you said, go in a facility, turns out that it's on lockdown by an evil machine, and they have to get out.
Yeah.
But it introduces some of the convoluted stuff that's going to get worse, like the amnesia. Get used to amnesia.
Oh no.
And
like a telenovela, like a bad soap opera.
Yeah, it's exactly what it's like. That's exactly what it's like. So now number 2. So number 2 begins basically with the infection has now been in the city for 2 whole days. Right. At which point, Umbrella get worried that it might spread, so they quarantine it. It takes them 2 days to decide that they should probably quarantine this because they don't want it getting out.
Of course. Yeah,
also, all the signs to Raccoon City say "Home of Umbrella," which I just think is a really weird thing, like "Home of Weapons Development Company."
Yeah. I feel like that's an American thing. Like I could imagine like places actually saying "Home to this company" in America. Like maybe it's just not a thing that
biological weapon.
That's true. Yeah.
It's also quite confusing. In some of like the adverts, they did like short films to promote it.
Right.
And in one of them, it implies that Umbrella is also like a skincare company. So they're a biological weapons company, but they also make like beauty products.
Oh, okay. So that's going to come into how people are also infected later on.
No.
No? Oh, okay.
It just confuses me because they're a weirdly evil corporation that also make beauty products.
Like moisturizer, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like they divide their time between those 2 things. So, right. Infection is now spread across all of Raccoon City. And Umbrella have barricaded it, cut it off from the world. But a girl named Angela Ashford, a young girl, she's probably like 8 or something, was left behind and is trapped in the city. And Angela Ashford is the daughter of a level 6 Umbrella researcher and the person who created the T-virus. This guy is called Charles Ashford. The easy way to remember is that he's played by Jared Harris, Dumbledore's son. That's how I remember it. So he's the person who actually made the T-virus. And his daughter's stuck in the city. And he's trying to get people to go in and rescue her. But Umbrella are like, no, we've got more important stuff to do. I'm going to cut out some of the tedious minutiae. Basically, Alice starts going through the city, surviving against zombies and lickers and everything. She teams up with a group of survivors. They try to figure out how to get out. And they can't find a way until Dr. Ashford contacts them through the city's CCTV system and tells her, basically, look, if you find my daughter, I'll send a helicopter and get you all out together if you just save my daughter for me. So that's basically the gist of the plot, is they've got to go find this little girl so that the head of Umbrella, not the head of Umbrella, but the person who made the T-virus and the head researcher will escort them out. But there's also the head of the sort of quarantine. The person who is managing the quarantine is onto the fact that he's doing this and doesn't like it. And he's trying to work against them by sending in this creature called Nemesis, which is a character from the games. It's a big super zombie that uses a bazooka. And it turns out that is Matt from the first film, the guy who started mutating as they drag him away. So he is a big, giant super zombie with a rocket launcher that has like a robot chip in his head. So they just type commands. So they type, like, kill Alice, and then it will go and fight her.
And they're doing that to kill survivors in a quarantine zone.
They're doing that to clean up the mess.
Right, okay.
They're cleaning up the mess, but it's also as a weapon test, quite confusingly, because they send in Umbrella soldiers to try and kill Alice, but then they also send Nemesis to fight those Umbrella soldiers to test Nemesis.
Okay. So they type in controls, but really it's just kill everything.
More or less, yes.
Right.
Eventually, it becomes apparent that Umbrella are going to nuke Raccoon City, because apparently Umbrella can do whatever the fuck they want. Apparently, they've got the capacity to nuke a town and no one will ask questions.
Yeah, because that'll have no impact on any of the country. Yeah.
So they have a cover story plan that's going to be the meltdown of a nuclear power plant, which again, no one would be able to tell the difference between a fucking bomb being dropped
Yeah.
and a power station melting down. So anyway, Alice eventually catches up with the little girl, and she reveals that she's been injected with the T-virus by her dad. The reason for this is that her dad actually made the T-virus because she was ill with a genetic disease and forced to walk on crutches, and the T-virus allowed her to walk. And then he created an antivirus, which he keeps injecting her with to stop her turning into a zombie. But that's the origin of the T-virus, is that this scientist created it to help his daughter walk.
Right.
Now, you need to remember this, because something is going to come up later that completely contradicts that. So
Good.
remember,
Good.
Dr. Ashford made the T-virus to save his daughter and let her walk. And then Umbrella got a hold of it and weaponized it. Okay?
Yeah.
So all the while, as they're trying to fight their way out the city, Alice is repeatedly disturbed by visions of a man experimenting on her. And it turns out, and I say this, and the abruptness with which I say it is the abruptness with which it happens and becomes apparent in the film. It turns out that she has superpowers. That is just as blunt as I said it. It's just like, oh, she has superpowers. And she can run up walls, and she's super strong, and she starts karate fighting zombies, and it's awful.
Right. Also, why was... Okay. So she was like... she was like playing undercover...
Yes. Well, she was an actual employee at Umbrella, but then she started to liaise with these people. Because she was helped the protest group.
And now she was being experimented on...
Well, that was also happening, but she forgot that until now.
Okay.
I don't know when in the timeline she was experimented on, but she was.
Right.
I think it might be implied that it happened between the first film and the second film, because she wakes up at the beginning of this film. Every single Resident Evil film begins with Alice waking up not knowing what happened.
Oh, God.
And I think that it's in that gap that she was experimented on. Again, to help you with characters, because this is going to get very confusing, the person experimenting on her is Dr. Isaacs. He's played by Jorah Mormont, so I can just call him Jorah Mormont if that helps.
Yeah.
But Dr. Isaacs, she has these visions of him experimenting on her, and she discovers that she has superpowers. So she's travelling now with the little girl in tow. She's also got Jill Valentine, one of the characters from the games. She's a disgraced policewoman. It's unclear as exactly why she's disgraced. I think it's because she shot a zombie in the police station and no one liked that. But she's travelling with them now. Also, there is a news reporter with them. Like a kind of go-getter journalist who always wants the scoop.
And they get in somewhere a bit too dangerous and they end up being killed first. Because they want the good shot or something.
No.
Oh, okay. I was trying to jump ahead.
No, that is what happens. That was exactly what happens. But eventually, they make it to the place where they're going to get airlifted out of here by Dr. Ashford. But the head of the quarantine has figured out this plan and sent Nemesis there. And also the head of the quarantine goes there too and holds a gun to Dr. Ashford's head and says, like, I'm not going to let you get out of here.
Wait, the head of the quarantine goes inside the quarantine zone?
Yes. Even though he's sent Nemesis after them, and they're literally being pursued by thousands of zombies.
Okay.
So there's no reason to do this. The only reason he does this is because he brings his own helicopter to do this, which gives them an excuse to escape.
Right.
So long story short, they have a fight with Nemesis. The bad guy kills Dr. Ashford. Yes, Ashford. But everyone, all of the heroes that I mentioned, obviously I've cut out a lot of dead meat here. So Alice, Jill Valentine, the policewoman, the reporter, the little girl, and another guy called Carlos. They all escape on a helicopter, fly out, bomb blows up Raccoon City, but the blast hits the helicopter and causes it to crash. Alice wakes up in a facility.
Again.
Again. And she's being experimented on by Jorah Mormont. And they're doing what's called Project Alice, in quotation marks that's what it's called. And she wakes up in like a tube, a cryogenic tube, floating, naked again. And then she realizes that she now has telepathic powers and uses her brain to make all the Umbrella scientists' heads explode and the glass explode. She starts walking out, and Carlos, the reporter, the little girl, and Jill are waiting for her in a car, and they drive off and escape from this other facility.
Why are they waiting for her in a car?
I don't know. They're in Detroit now, and they just knew where to go. But the camera then zooms in on Alice's face, and it turns out there's an umbrella logo in her eye. And then the camera tracks up into space, and an umbrella satellite is revolving around the Earth.
There's a webcam in her eye.
Yes, Umbrella are giving her orders as she's... And it turns out that Jorah Mormont is, like, deliberately letting her go to test out his new project.
Right, okay.
End of the film. So that's number 2. Still with me?
So Detroit's fine, no. Detroit is fine. Raccoon City's gone.
At this point, the world is fine. There's no implication, actually, that zombies are anywhere. And one thing I didn't mention was that after the helicopter crash, it's revealed that the reporter's footage got out everywhere.
Okay.
You know, showing what Umbrella had done, but they staged a cover-up and made her out to be a fraud, so no one believes it. So Umbrella successfully maintained the cover-up, is what I'm trying to say.
So basically blank slate for the third film, except for that we've got a group of characters and one of them has a webcam eye and superpowers.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Now, number 3 is set after the world has been overtaken by zombies, and it's basically a Mad Max post-apocalyptic film.
Okay, so they made a big leap.
It's a big leap. Well, the first Mad Max goes to apocalypse between the first and the second one.
That's true, but at least you got why would you set up that the reporter lost her job if she wasn't going to have it?
Well, that was exactly my point. Was why do the whole cover-up thing? It doesn't matter. The world's ended by the next film. So the first thing that we find out in the third one is that Umbrella are cloning Alice to try and replicate her abilities.
Right.
But all of the clones, they have like a simulation running of the mansion from the first film, and they try and get these clones to run through it, but none of them survive. They're all failures.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm following.
Jorah Mormont, who is the former head of Project Alice, but is now the head of the North American Umbrella facility, considers Alice's recapture to be a top priority, and he pitches this to the board of Umbrella. By the way, Umbrella's board are still operating in this Mad Max future.
Yeah, so how
they have board meetings still.
There's no one to sell weapons to. Why do you still?
No, there isn't. I have no idea what they're doing. They're just still being evil. But he tries to persuade the Umbrella board via hologram that he can use her blood to develop a way to tame zombies. And that's something that Umbrella could use as a weapon. Again, as you said, completely pointless because the world's over. Exactly. Fine.
And what happened to the antidote that was apparently a thing?
Yeah. There was, but now it's Alice's blood.
When did it become her blood? It was in the little girl's blood. I remember that. They put it to
but the little girl's not in this one.
What? But they went off in the second film. Is that just
Well, Alice is now on her own.
Does she ever show up again?
No. Anyway. So, this is next thing I need you to remember. The chair of the Umbrella board. The chair of the Umbrella board is Albert Wesker. He is like the main villain of the Resident Evil games. He's got like sunglasses on, slick black blonde hair, and leather jacket. Again, it's only really in name that he is Wesker, though, but he is the main villain of the games. So he's the chair of Umbrella's still operating board. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So once again, we have a similar thing where Alice meets up with a bunch of survivors, they fight off against zombies, yada yada yada, not that important. But Umbrella triangulates Alice's location based on a signal that was sent out by her telekinetic abilities. And
didn't they have an eye webcam in her?
They did.
Okay. Right, okay, they forgot
So anyway, Jorah Mormont sends a load of tamed zombies after her because he's been experimenting on this. And that was against Wesker's orders. Wesker doesn't want him doing any of this, but there's now some internal conflict here. But it's important to realise that Wesker is the chairman,
right,
and that Isaac reports to the board.
Okay.
So, Alice eventually tracks down Isaacs and goes into their facility that's out in Nevada somewhere.
What?
There
why
he
is she trying to track them down?
Because they're sending zombies after her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but now they're coming after her, so she wants revenge.
Okay.
So, obviously, there's quite a lot of stuff I'm skipping over here in terms of the stuff with the survivors and the zombies. I'm just focusing on the overarching plot with Umbrella. So, when she gets to the facility, Alice meets a hologram of the Red Queen's sister, which is the White Queen.
Right.
The White Queen informs Alice that her blood is a cure to the T-virus, and basically tells her that she has to stop Umbrella because the White Queen is a good AI for whatever reason, even though it's made by Umbrella. So she goes through the facility and discovers the clones. You know, the clones that I was talking about at the beginning.
Yeah.
Long story short, she eventually catches up with Dr. Isaacs, that's Jorah Mormont, and he has injected himself with something that turns him into a giant monster. They have a fight in the sort of test area of the the mansion from the first film.
This is a very rinse and repeat from the second film, isn't it?
Yes. At which point, the lasers, the famous lasers, they cut through Dr. Isaacs. Like, Alice leads him that way into that corridor so that the lasers cut him. And then just before the lasers get to cut Alice, they're shut down by one of the clones that was definitely dead, because she walks past this clone and it's dead. 100% dead. But now it shuts down the system, and I have no idea how it came back. So I went on Wikipedia to look into this, and all Wikipedia says is, the system is deactivated by her clone, which is inexplicably revived. That's all it says.
Wikipedia's just given up, it just doesn't even care.
So, they kill Isaacs, her and the remaining survivors. I don't remember who the remaining survivors are at this point, if I'm perfectly honest, but it doesn't matter because they're not in the next film. They go off to have to explore North America and try and find safe haven. Meanwhile, Wesker goes to Japan and informs the rest of Umbrella that the North American facility has been lost.
Okay.
And then a hologram of Alice appears, and she says that she's coming for him, and she's bringing all of her friends, in inverted commas, yeah?
Yeah.
And then we get a tracking shot that reveals that she is standing beside her army of clones.
Right. Okay.
So she's now a super-powered telekinetic with an army of clones.
Did she use her telekinesis in fighting the monsters?
A couple of times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she's now coming after Wesker, yeah?
Okay. I think I've got this so far.
That's the end of the third film. It ends on
halfway.
her with the clone army. They're ready to go. Now, important thing to remember. It's a Mad Max-style wasteland. And the T-virus is actually... they explicitly say the T-virus has dried up all of Earth's water.
Okay.
So there's no water on Earth, yeah? Right, fourth film now.
Why is the T-virus...
Earth isn't like that anymore. The fourth film, water's back. There's masses of sea. The fourth film mostly takes place at sea. So the third film, they explicitly say there's no water on Earth. And then the fourth film is like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like... It makes no sense. It's like the most out of their way they could have gone to contradict themselves. Now they're at sea.
What's the name of the fourth one? Just Resident Evil at sea?
No, it's Afterlife.
Afterlife, right, okay.
We open as Alice and her clone army attack an Umbrella base. They're hunting down Wesker. And so she leads her clone army in, they do like loads of cool fights. This lasts about 2 minutes, at which point Wesker detonates a bomb and kills the entire clone army. So you know that clone army setup from the third film? It's done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's gone. That's completely it.
Great.
And this is the part where every Resident Evil film, from this point onwards, seems to be dedicated to erasing the last film. Because every major plot point in each one is immediately retconned in the next film, usually in the opening. So the clone army is completely destroyed, and Alice is knocked out. And Wesker injects her with something that takes away her superpowers. So the superpowers are gone now too. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about that either.
But so Earth is fine. All the clones are dead. She's lost her superhero abilities. It's just everything back to exactly the way it was at the first film. No change.
Well, the world is still overrun by zombies.
But you said it was fine.
It's like no, I mean it's fine in terms of like... It's not all
it's green.
Mad Max wasteland. It's overrun with zombies, but water's around. buildings are around.
Okay.
It's not a desert anymore, is what I'm saying.
Okay, right.
So, Alice wakes up, no abilities, her memory's gone again, and she comes across one of the survivors from the last film called Claire Redfield. Again, a character from the game in name only. So she was helping her in the third film, but now she starts attacking Alice, and you don't know why. But it turns out that she has a small little robot beetle inserted in her chest,
Okay,
and Alice
yeah.
recognizes that this is controlling her, smashes the little beetle, and this causes Claire to pass out and immediately gain amnesia and lose all recollection of anything that's happening. So she wakes out and has no memory.
I like how this character that's returned was so unimportant. I didn't even get her established in the first time.
You didn't need it. I didn't realise I needed to tell you until I got to this part and went, oh yeah, you should probably know who that is. But she wasn't important.
Right.
And she was so unimportant that you can literally reset the clock on her character development in this film, and it makes no difference. So now in this film, Alice is looking for a safe haven from the zombies. This place called Arcadia, which they're hearing about broadcast on the radio.
Has she completely given up defeating the bad guy then?
Yeah, well, that's another thing that they've sort of forgotten about. That's another part of the third film that is now retconned.
Okay.
She's now looking for Arcadia for safety. You've seen this in post-apocalyptic films.
Yeah.
You know, the green place, whatever you want to call it.
We've heard rumours of it up north, or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then and they literally do the thing where someone else said, "There's nothing up there. It's just a myth."
Yeah.
You know, which is always what they say. So they fly out following this signal, and they arrive at a prison, which is where a load of survivors are holding up. Prison surrounded by zombies. This is probably the last time zombies are relevant to the Resident Evil films, because they completely get lost as they go along. So the prison is surrounded by zombies, including this massive man with an axe and a hood over his head. No explanation for who he is, except that he is a character in the 5th game. And they've just brought him in with no context, because he's dressed like he's in the fifth game is set in South Africa.
What? Okay.
And he's all like, he is a South African looking mutant thing.
Okay.
So he's so out of place here, but they just sort of slotted him in.
Is he a zombie or is he a man?
So this is now I'm getting into the games here, but in the games there's something called the Las Plagas and the Ouroboros, which are like evolutions of zombies.
Okay.
More
so
like people.
Smarter zombies, basically.
Yeah, exactly. They talk-ish. They have, like, weapons and they can open doors.
Right.
Like that. He's one of those. But in the films, you have no context for that. He's just there for a boss fight, basically. So she meets all the people in the prison, tells them that they're going to go to Arcadia. Claire's brother is also in this prison, but obviously she doesn't remember him because of her amnesia.
I'm sure it'll be very relevant.
Tensions rise within the... You're so right. Tensions rise within the prison. People start arguing and bickering. There's like one weaselly guy, I think he's a film producer, who wants to just get out for himself using the plane that Alice landed in. But when he gets in the plane, he basically crashes it, so they have no way out. So what they have to do is get in a bus that is in the prison. They put loads of weapons on it, reinforce it, and decide they're going to have to leave the prison through all the zombies. They do this, most of them die, but the survivors, which is Alice, Chris and Claire, the siblings, they go out to follow the signal to Arcadia, which is out at sea on an oil tanker. They land on the oil tanker and it's dead. There's no one there. They keep looking around and then it turns out, oh my god, it was a trap. Because Claire's amnesia is instantly counteracted when she remembers that she's been here before, because she followed the signal to Arcadia before, and it's an umbrella thing where they're luring people in to do experiments on her, and that's where they put the beetle thing on her. So they realise they've played right into Umbrella's hands and arrived at this trap. Wesker, that's the CEO, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Wesker's here, and it turns out that he's been infected with the T-virus, keeping him alive. I don't know why he was dying, but the T-virus is keeping him alive.
Maybe he had problems walking. Like a little girl.
And he's battling it for control. Like, sometimes he's monstery, sometimes he's human.
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
For reasons that are completely unexplained, he decides that eating fresh human DNA will pacify it and he'll remain in control. So he's been luring people here so he could eat them.
But then why did he put the little chip in Claire and send her off on her way?
I don't know.
So eating people stops him from being a zombie? That doesn't make... Okay. Right.
So he starts having a fight with them in what is possibly the most ridiculous segment from the entire franchise. Because he has, like, super speed powers and starts, like, dodging bullets like the Matrix, but he goes like... and he throws sunglasses at someone, and they go, whoa! And catch them as if it's like a knife being thrown at them. It's so ridiculous. And then they're in, like, this really clinical white room. And all of a sudden he sends out a load of zombies and these zombie dogs, and it's this complete clusterfuck with loads of stuff happening. But in the end, in the middle of the fight, Wesker reveals that he believes if he eats Alice, then he will be cured because of her blood. And her blood has many purposes, as you may be learning by now. Yeah. Blood does whatever the plot needs her blood to do. So he believes if he eats her, he will be in control. But they fight for a bit, and eventually she kills him. Then, as they're leaving, a helicopter filled with umbrella ships, like a fleet of umbrella helicopters, are flying towards Arcadia. And she's like, oh, we've got to fight them. Finish. End. Post-credit sequence. Post-credit sequence.
What? That was the end?
Jill, you remember the policewoman from the second film?
Oh, God.
Jill is leading the umbrella fleet because she has one of the robot things on her, one of the robot beetles on her.
Oh no.
Also, Wesker's not dead.
What?
End of number 4. We've got 2 more to go. How are you doing?
I mean, I'm following it, but I'm not following the logic.
Be prepared to not follow any of it by the time we get to the 6th film.
So, what was the purpose of the prison? There was no purpose with the prison. It was just like a midway point.
There's no purpose at all. It's just to kill time. There's no point to the prison.
What happened with Claire and her brother? Did they just fine? Is that it?
They're still alive.
That's it.
But they're okay.
But they survive like a fight with like the big boss.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, they're fighting zombies and stuff while Alice is fighting Wesker.
Okay, got it. Right.
Number 5. This is Resident Evil Retribution.
Can I please guess that Alice wakes up?
Yes, but not yet.
Oh, because
it opens with the attack, on Arcadia. It opens right where 4 closes, with the helicopters attacking Arcadia, and we watch it play out in reverse. So we watch the fight backwards for about 5 minutes, and then that's the credits, and then it finishes, and then we watch it play out forwards again.
At the same speed?
Yes.
That's budget saving to a whole new level.
So they have a big fight, Alice gets knocked out, and then she wakes up in a facility. She wakes up in a facility.
Right.
She escapes from it, and she ends up in Tokyo, where all of a sudden zombie...
Wait, no. How did she get... Like, does she escape the lab and it's in Tokyo, or does she escape the lab and then go to Tokyo?
You'll see in a minute.
Oh.
But she walks straight out of the lab into Tokyo, which is absolutely fine. There's cars, it's normal day. Nothing's wrong. Not post-apocalyptic.
Okay.
Then zombies attack, and there's all-out chaos, and she runs around, fights them, gets into safety in another building, where she encounters Ada Wong, who is one of Wesker's top agents.
I feel like I'm guessing that there's I feel like I might guess the twist coming. Is there? Okay, wait, keep going. I feel like I might be a step ahead for once in this stupid, nonsensical world.
Ada explains that she and Wesker no longer serve Umbrella and that they're good guys. So Wesker's a good guy now, okay?
Sure.
And Wesker hacks into the facility, the it's not an Umbrella facility where they are, the building's computers, and starts explaining everything to Alice. Basically, the Red Queen, which was definitely destroyed in the first film, has now taken control of Umbrella. It's the chair of Umbrella now. And where Alice is now is a facility, an underwater facility, designed to look like Tokyo. Okay? I feel like I've lost you.
See, I was gonna say, oh, I bet Tokyo's a simulation to make sure that
Yeah.
they've got like the right Alice or something like that, or like a brain, like it's a mental projection and she'll wake up again in a lab underwater.
So it's underwater.
Never-
Right, I'll explain. This facility is what Umbrella used to provide weapon demos to other countries. So they build like a Tokyo one.
Yeah.
Populate it with clones. So everyone in there, all the people
Right,
walking around Tokyo
yeah.
are clones. They drop the T virus in there, and then like people, like an ambassador from Russia watches the chaos and goes, "Ooh, good weapon," and buys it. And Umbrella have in this underground facility, they have like a Tokyo simulation, a New York simulation, a Moscow simulation, one that they provide to
right.
all the countries so they can go see what would happen to their enemies.
Yeah.
It's basically an excuse for this film to go from location to location.
Yeah,
Like, now
it
we're in
sounds like
Moscow,
it.
now we're here. Now we cut to one of the suburban simulations. At this point in the film, I'm messing up the order a little. You don't know it's a simulation. But there's a suburban world where Alice is a mother with 2 kids, living a normal life. Suddenly zombies attack. Alice is killed. Her husband is killed. Her husband, incidentally, is played by one of the characters from the second film, presumably a clone of them. I don't know, but it's completely irrelevant.
Great.
But Alice's clone daughter lives, okay?
Right. got
Anyway, Alice starts fighting her way through the simulation world. Meanwhile, Claire, Chris, and a group of other heroes up on Antarctica, because this is submerged, and they're up above on the ice looking for this facility. Did I mention that this is apparently in the Arctic or something?
No, you didn't.
So they're
No, you
wandering
didn't.
around above the ice,
Okay.
looking for an entrance to this facility.
And they have the resources to travel to Antarctica now.
Sure. Anyway, Umbrella, which is
Gotcha.
now run by the Red Queen
Yeah.
and Jill, with the robot spider on her, they send a load of clones after Alice. These are all clones of cast members from previous films. So, like, the
throwback.
cast from Resident Evil 1 and 2 all come back, but as evil clones hunting down Alice. There are some good clones, though, too. Sometimes of the same people, so there's a good and a bad clone.
Why would you make
But
a good
Alice's
clone?
clones are gone. Alice's clones are gone. They're not relevant
Okay.
anymore. They all died in the fourth
Can't they
film.
just clone more?
So Alice gets pursued by Umbrella agents through all these different simulation worlds. Very little zombies at this point. This is when the Resident Evil films completely forget that there are zombies, and it just becomes her fighting Umbrella. Umbrella agents and clones and shit. Along the way, they get into the suburban simulation, and Alice finds her clone's daughter and basically begrudgingly takes her with her, because the little girl's like, "You're my mum," but she's like, "I don't know who you are." What happens is they basically develop a sort of Ripley and Newt relationship from Aliens.
Right.
Like, she begrudgingly becomes a mother over the course of the film.
Touching.
Eventually, the people up top get down into the simulation, and they kind of activate a lift so that they're ready to leave. They look for Alice, they meet up with Alice, and they're like, "Right, okay, we're going to get you out of here. This is the lift that we're going to." They fight through all the simulations. It's just an excuse for non-stop action sequences with no real need for continuity or any explanation. Eventually, they get to the lift. Most of the cast die once again, but Alice, Claire, maybe Chris, and a guy called Leon, they escape.
He sounds
They
very
definitely
important.
escape.
Maybe Chris sounds very important.
It doesn't matter because none of these characters are in the next film. So they escape
Right.
up into the ice, up onto the ice. At which point, an Umbrella submarine smashes through the ice, and Jill jumps out with her spider chest thing controlling her. They have a big fight, and eventually Alice manages to pry the beetle off of Jill's chest and returns her to being, good guy Jill. So we win. Heroes win. Yay. Then Alice gets a call saying that she needs to head to the White House. So Alice...
This is written like a 10-year-old's dream of they woke up and they said, "I had a dream, and at first I was in a simulation, but then I came up into Antarctica, and then I fought a woman, and then the president called me and said thank you."
Well, you don't know half of it yet. They travel to the White House.
Is this in the same film?
survivors.
I thought getting to the lift was the finale, and then there was the second finale, and now they're going to Washington.
They get to the White House and find sitting in the Oval Office is Wesker. He's basically become the president of the remaining world. And he says that they need to save the world, because apparently that's what Wesker wants now. By the way, I have no idea what Umbrella are trying to do anymore at this, for this entire film. Umbrella's goals are a complete mystery to me. The world's ended, they're just doing evil stuff for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Wesker's like, we need to defeat Umbrella, and he injects her with the T-virus, returning her superhuman abilities. So remember he took them away in the last film, well, he's given them back now, so we've retconned that.
Great.
Apparently the Red Queen is trying to wipe out all of humanity. So anyway, he says, like, we got to do this. Alice teams up with Umbrella, they walk outside, kind of cock their guns, see a load of monsters running towards the White House, end of film. So Alice, the survivors, and Umbrella are all ready to take this assault from monsters, and they're going to go stop Umbrella once and for all as we go into our 6th film.
Oh,
how you doing? How you holding up?
I'm dealing with it.
The most confusing thing is that most of them are directed by the same man.
Most of them.
The second and third one weren't, but 1, 4, 5, and 6 are all directed by the same man, and they contradict each other.
Yeah. What else has he directed?
AVP.
Oh, okay.
That Three Musketeers film from a few years ago.
Oh, that was a big flop, wasn't it?
Yeah. The Mortal Kombat films.
Oh, so this is like his speciality then, like big, vapid blockbusters.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
I'm ready. I'm ready
6.
for the 6th one. I've stopped having opinions on the films themselves. I'm just getting through it now.
So the 6th one opens with a recap, and this is my favourite part. So the 6th one opens with narration, recapping the events thus far. So it just starts by describing the first film, basically exactly as it happened.
Oh my god, alright. It's taken us 40 minutes to get to this point. How's it going to do it in 5 minutes in this film?
It describes the first film, then it describes the second film inaccurately. So it says that Dr. James Marcus, who is the original founder of the Umbrella Corporation, had a daughter who was dying of premature aging. Desperate to save her, Marcus discovered the T-virus and injected her with it. Now, this is confusing because not only is it premature aging now, and not only is this guy the head of the Umbrella Corporation,
they've also changed
but
his
he's
name.
Dr. Marcus, whereas it was Dr. Ashford in the second film.
Yeah.
This is made more confusing by the fact that whilst they're telling this story and showing you footage of like Dr. Marcus in a flashback doing all this, they also show you Dr. Ashford from the second film. So they show you the stuff they're contradicting. Then it says that Umbrella weaponized it and that it broke out in Cape Town, South Africa, which isn't what happened. It broke out in Raccoon City.
Yeah, but that's because that's where the video game took place then.
Raccoon City's where it took place.
No, but the video game, you said they went
South
to
Africa's where the more recent ones took place, yeah, I guess.
Right.
Anyway, Marcus tries to shut the program down, but has protests from Dr. Alexander Isaacs. Now, that's Jorah Mormont, who died in the third film. When Isaacs refused to shut the program down, and he told Wesker to kill Marcus. This is confusing because Wesker was the head of the board, and Isaacs was taking orders from Wesker's before.
Yeah.
But now Isaacs is ordering Wesker to kill Marcus, who has done the things that Ashford had done in the second film.
Just, okay, at the end of this segment, can you just tell me who the bad guy is, and then we'll move on from there, because...
So, then the flashback bit skips the third film entirely, recounts the events of the fourth film and the fifth film, and then we open. So if you remember, the last film ended with Alice teaming up with Umbrella to go fight
How long is this
zombies
intro?
approaching.
How long is that intro?
I don't remember. It wasn't that long, it was a few minutes. But it was already immediately confusing, because I was like, 1 minute, no. It was Ashford curing his daughter's paralysis, not Marcus curing premature aging. Anyway, so you remember, Alice is at the White House, standing with Umbrella to go fight the zombies that are coming. She's teamed up with Wesker, yes?
Yes, right. But Wesker's not. Wesker doesn't run Umbrella anymore. It's Red Queen runs
Yes,
Umbrella.
that's exactly right. This film opens with Alice waking up
For God's sake.
in the White House. In the White House. It's been a few months since the first film, and off-screen, Wesker has become a bad guy again, and she's no longer working with him.
Wait, it's been a few months since the first film or the fifth film?
No, sorry, since the fifth film.
Right.
Sorry, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah. So it ends with Alice teaming up with Wesker. Then as soon as we cut back, Wesker's already a bad guy again. Alice is on her own. She's not got any of her friends anymore.
What? They're all dead?
No, they're just not there.
Gotcha. And what about her daughter?
She's not there.
And it's directed by the same person?
Yes.
I don't...
So, Alice decides she's going to go off and take the fight to Umbrella when she gets contacted by the Red Queen, who is no longer in charge of Umbrella and is actually a good guy. The Red Queen appears and tells Alice that she must return to the Hive, the facility from the first film, within 48 hours because the Umbrella Corporation has developed an airborne virus which will kill everything in the world. I don't know why they're doing this. So the Red Queen's a good guy and helping now deal with it. Alice is returning to Raccoon City when she's captured by Dr. Isaacs. Now that's Jorah Mormont, who, if you remember, died in the third film.
Yeah.
But it turns out that was a clone and that this is the real Dr. Isaacs, who is also in charge of Umbrella, despite the fact that in the other film
But they said that the Umbrella failed in North America.
Dr. Isaacs is the bad guy. To answer your question, Jorah Mormont is the bad guy.
No, but okay, right.
But he's giving orders to Wesker and the board, even though in the last time
right.
he was not. Also, the Red Queen is no longer in charge. She's a good guy helping Alice, and Wesker is just a henchman now. Okay? So Alice arrives at the city, and she meets up with, guess what? A bunch of survivors holed up in a building surrounded by zombies.
Right.
In this building, she meets Claire Redfield, who was in the fourth film and the fifth film, but she's not got a brother or anyone else with her. It's just Claire.
Why is she there?
And a group of newbies. They never say. But not only that, but she's now had a long-term relationship with someone in this new group, but which implies that Alice has been in the White House for ages.
Yeah.
Because she's like really close to this new character all of a sudden.
And her brother's gone.
Yeah. Anyway, Dr. Isaacs, Jorah Mormont, leads an attack on this building to try and kill Alice, yeah?
Yeah.
There's a big siege, a big battle. Alice and the survivors ultimately win. They capture Jorah Mormont, but he escapes through shady means and runs off like, mwahaha. So they all go to the site of the nuclear bomb, where the bomb hit and destroyed nuclear, because that's where the Hive is. No radiation or anything, they just walk in.
Yeah, of course.
They're attacked by giant dogs, but they get in and it's all fine. And then they meet up with the Red Queen, who explains to Alice that the reason she's turned against Umbrella is because she has a protocol that means she can't ever hurt people and she has to value human life. Which is definitely not true, because in the first film she was killing everybody.
Also, if you have... But you've already got a good AI program in the White Queen as well, which
the White Queen's not in it anymore. Forget about the White Queen.
But okay.
Oh, one thing I probably should have mentioned is that the Red Queen is sort of visualized as a hologram of a little girl.
Okay.
So it's a little girl. That is important. That it's a little girl.
Oh, it's going to be the little girl that was prematurely aging or whatever.
Yes, she does actually say that. That's not a twist. She said that the Umbrella founder modelled me after his daughter.
Right, gotcha.
So, they start fighting through the facility, and most of the characters die until it's just Alice and Claire.
Does the laser wall come into it?
Yes.
What is this attachment to Claire? What does she give to the team?
Nothing. I don't know.
What happened to the lady, the Valentine?
Jill. She's just not here.
Okay.
Oh wait, I think she might show up at the end.
No, don't spoil it.
Anyway, the Red Queen explains to Alice that before the world ended, Dr. Isaacs pitched to Umbrella that they should end the world so that they could rebuild it in like the way they wanted it, and that was why they decided to make the T-virus, which goes against again the fact that it was let out accidentally in the first film, and the fact that they were trying to sell it as a weapon.
It's to stop aging.
And paralysis, and to dry out water.
Right. Okay.
Also, Alice's blood is no longer a cure.
Fine.
And remember how I said she got injected with her powers again?
Oh yeah, I never even asked about that.
She doesn't use them for this entire film. They haven't explicitly been taken away, but she never uses them. So I just like the idea of that board meeting. Like, someone sitting there taking minutes when it got to the part about ending the world and just going, wait, what? What was that last part? I thought we made skincare products.
But don't you see, if we kill the whole world, then everyone will have to have our moisturiser.
So, Alice eventually fights her way through the facility when she comes up against the real Dr. Isaacs. That's right. The one that we met earlier in the film was actually a clone of a clone. And now we've met the real Dr. Isaacs. So Dr. Isaacs, who is now giving orders to Wesker, tells Wesker to kill everyone. They have a big fight. And basically, Alice defeats Wesker really unceremoniously.
No. But why is it a big thing that the guy escaped earlier?
You'll see.
Oh, right.
So, it's also revealed when they meet real Dr. Isaacs that Alice, right, and now this part, I just couldn't believe it. Alice is actually a clone of Alicia Marcus, the daughter who had the aging problem. Not only that, but the chair of Umbrella, who you've been seeing throughout the film as an old woman in a wheelchair, is also
Alice.
Alicia Marcus. The real Alicia Marcus. She's an old woman now because she's been aging so fast. And that is Mila Jovovich in old age makeup. So there's Alice, who is a clone of the old lady now.
Gotcha.
But that again goes against why, if she was a clone of the head of Umbrella, why she was just working there as a security officer and why they let her experiment on her. But whatever. Alice is a clone of the old lady, and the Red Queen is also
like a young version of
Alice.
Alice.
They're all Alicia Marcus. They're all Alicia Marcus, including Alice.
Okay.
And Alicia Marcus is played by the director and Mila Jovovich's daughter.
Oh, okay. That's a nice twist, I suppose. Nice touch.
Yeah. So Alice is revealed to be a clone of Alicia, and therefore all those other clones are clones of clones as well.
Okay.
Alice releases the antivirus. Which there is now.
Okay.
And gets into a fight with not Marcus, Isaacs. They have a fight in the laser room.
Of course,
and Alice basically escapes. Alice escapes, and it's like that. You remember you've seen The Emperor's New Groove, right?
Yes.
You remember that part where they get into Yzma's facility, and Yzma and Kronk are there before them, and they go, "How did you get here before us?" And she goes, "How did we get here before us?" That happens because Alice beats Dr. Isaacs in the laser room, runs up to the elevator, gets to the top, and Isaacs is waiting for her. And he's pointing a gun and saying, I'm going to kill you. Yeah. At which point, the clone Dr. Isaacs from earlier that escaped, the other one that you asked about,
yeah,
he runs into this scene and goes, who's this? This is a clone. It's an abomination. And the other guy's like, no, I'm the real one. You're the clone. And he goes, liar! Yeah. And he kills the real one. So he's killed by a clone. Then the clone is eaten by some zombies. Alice releases the antidote across the world, killing all the zombies, and presumably her as well, because she's got the T-virus in her.
Right.
But for inexplicable reasons, when it did it to her, it only killed the infected cells, and the rest of us fine. So she mounts a motorbike, starts driving away, and you're like, oh, she's basically won. She's defeated Umbrella and unleashed the cure. But no, because you see, the antivirus is carried by the winds, and so it'll take years to reach all corners of the earth, so she's going to go out and fight some zombies. And then a giant pterodactyl flies past the screen and the film ends.
Sorry, could you reverse just a second there?
Yeah. Which part?
I think you know which part.
The pterodactyl?
Yeah. When does the pterodactyl come into it?
It's just another monster that happens to exist.
Is it introduced beforehand?
No.
So this is the end of the series? Like, no more films?
Presumably. It's called The Final Chapter.
That to be honest, that means nothing to me given this series' reputation.
Any questions?
Quite a few. So what happens to old woman, the boss?
She blows up when the facility explodes.
Okay, what happens to...
In possibly the worst example of it. Basically, they say that the facility is going to explode in 4 minutes.
Right.
And I watched the timer as I was watching the film.
Yeah.
I looked at the runtime. It takes 20 minutes because they have the fight and a few action sequences that go on for 20 minutes before it explodes.
I don't know which one of these I'm referring to. Wesker. Which one was Wesker?
Wesker was the one who wanted to eat people to cure himself. Who ended up
that
being
was like
the head of
back
the
in the
White House,
third
but
one.
then was a bad guy.
Yeah, but then it was a
the
bad
fourth
guy
one.
again, and then what does he do?
Then
in
he
the
was a
last
good
one?
guy, and then he's a bad guy. In the last one, he's just a henchman taking orders from Dr. Isaacs, and then in a fight, he gets his leg wounded with Claire, and the Red Queen severs it with an elevator door, and he just sort of lies there and bleeds to death.
Oh, what happens to Claire, the most important character?
I honestly don't remember. I think she gets out. I don't remember her dying.
I need to know, because why is she in so many of the films if you have not described her?
Because she's a character from the games. But so is Leon and so is Chris, and they're not important. Alice isn't in the games, by the way. Alice is completely original.
Yeah, I got that impression. Oh, Claire just wakes up Alice. That's apparently the ending. Also, the Red Queen gives Alice an upload of all of Alicia's memories from childhood.
Yes, of all her memories.
So that's the...
She does it. I think it's something like the old woman's gets a pair of sunglasses and imprints her memories onto them, and then the Red Queen gives Alice those sunglasses, and she gets to all the memories uploaded. But this begs the question, because in the first film she had amnesia, and then she gets her memory back. Does she remember being a clone?
Well, maybe she just
I don't know.
just remembers existing, but she doesn't remember her creation.
I guess. So the superpowers never become relevant, by the way.
Good.
Nor does her army of clones.
You never used a single example of when she used her powers, except for when she was escaping some base that then turned out to be a test after all.
Because it's the only time it's important. It's the only time it's important to the plot. And then she gets them taken away a film later, and then she never uses them when she's given them back. The next film is rumoured to be a reboot directed by James Wan in the Blumhouse model.
Wait.
Who made Saw and The Conjuring and Insidious.
Wait, so they're already talking about a reboot?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. I think it's just the fact that I think that's very telling of what the movie industry has become, where they've stepped away from like horror films. They don't do hundreds upon hundreds of sequels anymore because that doesn't make as much money. They just do hundreds of remakes. they realised we cannot bother about continuity even more if we just reboot the whole thing, and we could just make the same film again, so it saves money.
So did I sell you on any of them?
No. Well, maybe the first one. Or maybe the last one. Just because with that introduction, I think that covers everything, so...
It doesn't, though! It skips out the third film and most of the fourth film.
I think what was the one with the simulation? The fourth one?
The fifth film.
No, the one in the underground base.
The fifth one.
That was the fifth... Jesus... Right. What happened in the fourth one?
The fourth one was the one in the boat. In the prison.
Oh, right.
The prison and then the boat. The third one was the Mad Max one.
Oh yeah, where the world was destroyed, but it wasn't really. This is just. Well, I think that's settled that, and now I know everything there is to know about Resident Evil.
Next time I'll do the games.
Is that? I feel like that must be much easier.
It probably would be, and that's saying something because they're not exactly simple.
I was looking. I was still on the Wikipedia page. The final chapter received mixed reviews.
Oh, the editing in the final chapter is one thing. The editing makes Taken 3 look like The Revenant in terms of shot length. It's unbelievable.
See, I might quite enjoy that to watch then. If it's an actual pain to watch, then I think that could be fun. Continuing on the theme of terrible films, we both saw terrible films last night.
Yeah.
Separately.
I think you should go first because my throat is dry.
Our podcast has just dissolved into us explaining the plots of films to each other, because that's what our other one is, and now this one. So You Get Me is a teen romance thriller that was released on Netflix. I don't know where to start with it. I spent half of the film trying to think of a way to explain how bored I was, but the film was so uninspiring that I couldn't even think of any funny way to say that. This guy really likes his girlfriend, but then they break up, and while they're on their break or whatever, he meets this fun, crazy, wild girl, and he has a one-night stand with her, and then after that he decides to get back with his first girlfriend before the fling starts showing up around his school and starts being more involved with his life, and basically turns into like a crazy ex-girlfriend that is evil, really. And
so is it a thriller?
Thriller's a strong word.
But is that what it's meant to be?
Yes. Have you heard of Awesomeness Films before?
No.
It's a spin-off of Awesomeness TV.
What the fuck is Awesomeness TV?
But I feel like this is actually more interesting than the film itself.
Okay.
Just explaining what this is. It's a multi-channel network for YouTube. So It's a YouTube network that has eventually been branching off into films and TV. But by TV, I mean it's branching off into web shows that no one actually watches and star their own like talent that they have.
Right.
So I've tried to go onto the website, and it keeps popping up with this pop-up that what I can't get rid of, saying join the Awesomeness Squad. You can meet your fave talent and win free swag.
Does it say fave?
Yeah.
Oh no. So I assume their audience is teenagers.
Their audience, yeah, is the network that got all of the Vine stars after they started coming to YouTube.
Would it be presumptuous to say that their audience is mainly teenage girls then?
No, it's entirely teenage girls. They've got other classic films on Netflix called Expelled. Have you seen that?
No.
It's basically like, you know how much you love Ferris Bueller?
Yeah. Right.
Harrison doesn't like Ferris Bueller, for reference.
No, I don't.
No, it's basically, imagine if that, but it was filmed like a 2010 TV special with a kid from Vine instead of actors.
When you say that, do you mean it's actually a kid from Vine, or was that like...
No, it's actually a kid from Vine. He was a Vine quotation marks star that wanted to get into acting.
Is he a good actor?
It's a terrible experience.
He could be.
He turns to camera like Ferris Bueller and everything, and it's very obviously just a complete rip-off. Basically, Awesomeness TV or Awesomeness Films or whatever are just very crap, just trying to shovel their...
Pandering.
Yeah, because they know that whatever they make, if they make it basically teen-friendly and include the people that they have on their label in it, then people will watch it and they'll make money anyways. So that's what you're going into with this. So, for example, I don't know who the main guy is, but the main girl is an ex-Disney star that's now, like, Instagram famous.
Right.
Yeah, so the best friend is, like, a YouTuber, and then the guy best friend was also very popular on Vine as well. I'm dragging out not talking about the film because the film's just very boring and very dull, and it's laughable at moments, but it's not worth the pain of sitting through anything like this. I messaged you, I think the most entertaining bit was the jump scares. Within the first half an hour, there are 4 jump scares, and all of them are his girlfriend jumping out from behind things. All 4 within 30 minutes.
To like prank him, or...
Yeah,
or...
so like it starts off the film with that, with him walking into the house, and it's like tense music, and then she jumps out and says boo. 10 minutes later, it happens again, the exact same thing, and she says boo again, and then 20 minutes later, it happens again.
Did she actually say boo?
Yeah.
Every time?
Yeah, every time. And it just got me very just drained of all emotion. Basically, the only reason I want to bring it up is just because if you have a teenage like sibling or I don't know child or something, and they like stuff like that, don't even let them watch it, because they'll find it just as dull and just as boring. There's nothing, absolutely nothing.
Wow, that's pretty damning.
Again, I feel like this is very boring to talk about because it is just very boring to think about.
I feel like the part that's confusing me the most here is that you said it's by Awesomeness Films or whatever.
Yeah.
And that it's got like Vine stars and everything.
Yeah.
But it sounds like very straight and serious, despite being made by Awesomeness Films.
There's no banter whatsoever. There's
no memes.
There's no memes. There's nothing. The closest they come to it is that they're walking through the corridors at the beginning of the film, and then one guy goes, "Oh, I can't believe you shared that video. It was so awful." And then the other kid goes, "Haha, I love videos of people falling over."
Oh.
And that's it. That's like their references to internet culture. That's it.
Well, I watched a film called Gremlin yesterday.
Is this one Netflix?
No, this one I got a screener for.
Oh, right, okay.
And this is probably the worst film I've seen this year so far. It's not that bad. It's
But it's the worst.
I haven't seen, up until this point, I'd say iBoy was the worst film I've seen this year. So it's only marginally worse than iBoy. It's not like Darling or anything, you know? I didn't sit there seething with rage. But it's a horror film about a guy who gets this box, gets sent to his house. Looks a bit like the Hellraiser cube. And I realise that I'm saying that to you when you're like, yes, the Hellraiser cube.
I get all these classic references, kids.
But basically, it's like an estranged uncle brings it to the house and is like, here, you have to take this cube. And as soon as he takes it, there's like a little dial on it, and it like spins around and resets. And basically what he says is you just have to give this box to someone that you love before that dial gets all the way round. Just do that. And obviously he's like, yeah, whatever, and doesn't do it. And it turns out that every time that this dial kind of hits the next notch, I guess, the next sort of marking, each time it goes round a bit, this little gremlin creature emerges from the box and kills someone that he loves. So he has a choice. He can either, wait it out, let it get all the way round and just keep killing someone each time he leaves it, or he can get past the curse along to somebody that he loves, so it's their responsibility, and that will reset the dial, as happened when the uncle brought him the box.
Right.
So that's the central dilemma. It's like either let this go on or pass it along to someone else. So he's living with his family. He's got a daughter, a son, a wife, and he has a mistress who he's seeing. And obviously his main thing is like, I could give it to her. I could pass it along to her, and then it's not my problem
Oh,
anymore.
but he doesn't love her.
That's exactly what happens, because he finds out that when he gives the box to someone that he doesn't love, it just malfunctions instantly, and the creature just emerges and kills them straight away.
I just love the idea of him, like, handing it to the person, like this claw coming out, like, gouging out their throat, and then just, like...
That's exactly what happened. No. That's exactly what happened.
Perfect.
So... I mean, I don't think that's the worst idea in the world. It's it could have been a fun B-movie thing, like a creature in a box. What do we do with the box? I
think the problem is it's just a very simple answer. You just give it to someone and tell them exactly it, and then tell them to pass it on.
That's part of the problem, is that it feels like the dilemma is sort of stupid, because you pass it along and it resets it.
Yeah.
So they just have to reset it too. And if you don't pass it on, it's going to kill more people.
Right.
So just it feels like, why is this a thing? Why is this a problem? But like with a bit of tweaking to the rules, I think it could be an okay concept. If you balance it out a bit better, so that there's more of a problem with passing it along.
Because that's the problem, is that it's generally with these things, it's like but if I do this bad thing happens, but also this bad thing will happen. Rather with this, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's obvious. Just give it
the
up.
big problem with it, despite the issues with the premise there, is the acting. I've never seen anything quite like it. Like, I've seen amateur acting is one thing, but the delivery in this is so kind of detached and sort of off. It feels a bit... It starts to sort of resemble a dream, like the way people talk in dream sequences. Nobody talks right. Like, the first time it happened, I just thought, oh, maybe that's just one bad actor. But then it's like, no, it's everyone. And I started thinking, is this intentional? Is this like Twin Peaks? Is this supposed to be so weird? But no, everyone talks so strange. Like, there's this detective. Basically, one of the stupidest things about this is that when the gremlin kills someone, he calls the police the first time and goes like, we don't know what's happened. Someone's dead, because he didn't see it happen.
Right.
So the police then leave, and he decides to hide that body in the basement, even though the police have already seen it. So I was like, wait, what?
Okay.
What? But then whenever anyone else dies, he goes, we can't contact the police, that'll be suspicious. What we need to do is we need to hide the bodies in the basement. Okay, that won't be suspicious. But so this police officer keeps showing up, and he has the most bizarre delivery. It like puts intonation on weird parts of words. It feels like I don't want to say it doesn't. It feels like English isn't his first language. I think it feels like language is new to him.
His first language.
Yeah, it's like a baby sort of talking and making sounds that it doesn't understand. Like he walks into a room and like I'll give you an example. I don't remember the exact dialogue, but I'll just give you an example of how people talk. He comes in and goes, "Hello, I am looking for Mr. Ashford. How is he? Where are he to be found?" And it's like, wait, what? Why is everyone talking like this? Like it just feels like they don't know what the words mean. And then there are other parts where people are so kind of unreactive to everything, and which again makes it feel dreamlike. Like this goblin emerges and starts cutting people's throat, and they just sort of watch passively and go with just like their mouths slightly agape, and it's just like no one reacts. Like when the grandmother dies, and the grandmother's daughter doesn't care. She just goes like, "Oh, your grandmother's dead," after her grandmother's just been stabbed through the throat, and it was so strange. It felt like I was watching Pod People. Like aliens pretending to be human, like that was going to be a twist that they weren't humans and that these were all robots in disguise because they weren't acting like people. There's the teenage daughter in the family. Mild spoilers.
Oh, no.
The teenage daughter in the family gets pregnant, and she's like brings the boy home to try to break the news to her parents. And at this point, the dad gives the boy the box because he's so pissed off he wants to like hand it over, to him. Right. Like, you have it, but because he doesn't love the boy, it immediately unleashes the gremlin. Everyone panics and runs around, and the boy and his girlfriend get in a car, lock themselves in, and the gremlin starts smashing its head against the windshield, trying to break through to kill them. And whilst this is happening, the boy just turns to her and goes, "I've been thinking, I could get a job, and then we could move in together. I'd look after the baby and be a responsible father," whilst the gremlin's going, "Ah! Is this the time?" And it just doesn't feel like anyone's acting like a human. And it's not comical. It's a deadly serious film. Like, it's taking its concept really seriously. 'Cause it obviously thinks it's, like, examining human nature and, like, ooh, what would you do in this situation? So it's deadly serious about all this. So I know that this isn't meant to be funny, but it's just so strange. And then there's like, so part of what they decide partway through is instead of passing it along, what they're going to do is they're going to plant the box on the table and they're going to sit there with a shotgun just pointing at the box and wait for it to come out. This is a plot point they try about 3 times. And each time, the character who's supposed to be watching the box falls asleep and it gets out while they're asleep. This happens 3 times. Yeah. It's like the real horror of this film is that everyone's contracted mass narcolepsy. Everyone falls asleep. Every time. The monster looks exactly, in terms of design, it looks exactly like Clover from Cloverfield. Right. But at first it's like, okay, but it's small, so that makes it kind of different. But then we find out that when the timer gets all the way to the end,
how did they let it get all the way to the end if you've just got to pass it to someone?
When it gets there, the thing grows into a giant size, and then it is just Cloverfield. I did tell you that basically it's in the house when this happens, and it starts growing and growing and growing, and you can see that they needed it to get out of the house just before it would cause any damage, because that would be too expensive. Yeah. So it gets out the doorway just in time to go giant where it can't cause any damage to anything. It's just, it's the dialogue, the human behaviour, and the acting really just strange. And some of the production value is really poor too. Like, all the bullet holes that are so clearly, like, added over on top of the wall, and, like, they move around with the camera. And the audio is really...
They move with the camera.
The audio is very poor as well. Like, it feels like they recorded it in a space with weird acoustics or something, because it just sounds really muffled and strange.
So they might have been trying to, like, they might have filmed in, like, an echoey house and tried to fix it in post or something. Is that what you're suggesting?
Maybe. I don't know. I really don't know. One bit that did... I was just thinking when I was watching it of how you would be laughing, and then it made me laugh, is when, basically, it's quite dark, because basically the guy's whole family dies, apart from his son. Like, his wife dies, after finding out that he's been cheating on her. She just gets torn apart.
Oh, lovely.
The grandmother dies, and the teenage daughter dies with the baby, stabbed. But when the teenage daughter dies, they also drag her down to the basement for some reason, throw her down the stairs, and then the mother props her up on a chair in a plastic bag and starts talking to her. And she goes like, "Do you remember when you were a little girl? We used to tell you these stories, but you wouldn't like them, so we'd make up our own stories." And then it does a reverse shot. So she's talking, and then it cuts to the daughter, dead, with her mouth wide open. And you'll just linger there, and then go back to the next part of the conversation. So it's emotional dialogue, and just a shot of a disgusting corpse, and then emotional dialogue again.
I could see how that would make you laugh. Yeah, was it good? Did it have a good ending?
So the ending, it turns into the big kaiju. The police start shooting at it, and then he basically, what happens? Because for some reason it just gets brought back into the box. I don't remember why. For some reason, the gremlin gets shrunk back into the box, and then the detective has it, and it's on him now. The detective was the best part. I wish the whole film was about him, because not only was his dialogue the most bizarrely delivered, but it was like he was a character from Airplane or something. The level of his incompetency is amazing.
Right.
The bumbling around, wandering into obvious crime scenes and not seeing it. There's a bit where he goes to he literally says, I need a search warrant to find the blah 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 house. He doesn't know where the house is. He's not looking for the people, he's looking for the house. And and then he gets there, knocks on the door for a second, and just leaves. That's my work done. And after, because it's all the evidence is mounting to say that this dad's been killing everyone, because they find his girlfriend dead, all the people dying in his house. And he follows this lead by going into the house, looking around in one room, can't find anything. So his second option is to go to the local gypsy and ask if she has any help. And he does the samurai cop bulging eyes thing. The samurai cop guy with his react faces. That's what he's like. So that's why I enjoyed him. I wish the whole film was about him. The weirdest thing, apart from the acting, was just how serious it is. How dark and grim it is. After the mother dies, there's just a 5-minute sequence with this depressing, Sia-esque song. Where they're all just sat around moping, looking sad. There's no humour or jokes or anything, despite the fact that it's a film about a little gremlin jumping around stabbing people. I would almost recommend it just to understand the acting, because I can only try to explain it so much, but it's just, no one feels like a human. I felt like I felt like I didn't understand people watching it, just hello, how was your day? It was good. Why are you always asking questions at me? I hate this house. You're always fighting. It's really strange.
That sounded very dark and gritty, just like you said. But what is the moral of that story then? If you handed a box that kills your family, don't hold on to it all day.
I did some research because I'm writing this review for it, and I wanted to talk about that policeman. I couldn't find out from the cast list which one he was, because I don't remember his name. None of the people in the IMDb credits have pictures.
So
I was just looking. Small. So I was looking through everything, trying to figure out who he was, and I stumbled across an interview with the director, and he said that he was inspired by It Follows, and wanted to tell a story about how fathers have to not pass on their problems and their crap to their children, and have a responsibility to look after them and not let their own personal things impact them. And It Follows that inspired him, apparently. I don't know.
I mean, I suppose I can fathom a horror film where you could convey that, but this isn't one of them. Because you being a father, you should not pass on death to your children. Death by gremlin.
Yeah. But that's Gremlin.
Well, that was. I'm glad I got to find out about Gremlin. Shall we wrap off the bad movie special?
Yeah.
I think it was fun. I think I probably had more fun from that than watching the films.
And it was significantly shorter.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was our I suppose bad movie special. I think it's just going to be titled Harrison Explains Resident Evil. I think that's just it. But thank you very much for listening. You can hear all the other podcasts on our YouTube channel. We've got them all there, as well as the official feed on iTunes and Stitcher. Yeah, and if you want to hear all our individual reviews, we also have videos going up on the channel sporadically whenever. And you can follow us on social media. Yeah, thank you very much for listening, and yeah, hopefully listen again. Don't make
the least confident. If you want, or don't, if you didn't like it, it's fine. Whatever you want.
Listen to the world's best Resident Evil podcast.